Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the next Zoom training that we have. We have a good one lined up for you today, but I want to start off by making an acknowledgement of the people who are suffering from the effects of the hurricane. We have an official on this Zoom whose family uh, has was right there in the business end of this hurricane. And we certainly hope that her family is doing well and everybody else in that area. Tough. We have gratitude for Lloyd, Matt, and all those who have agreed to be trainers this year. Lloyd Cornelius, I am referring to, and Matt Merrill. They are the people who have had the point of view series, and we will have the final episode for that in December when they present one over starting. So stay tuned for that. No date right now for that. Also, gratitude is owed to
Seen
people
three
who are,
professional athletes as I scroll through so far. Katie Moon's in here.
okay, we need to have you muted, please. The only person right now who should not be muted is your host. Gratitude also owed Kerry Dean with Eric Johnson and others for EDM. That will be on Monday, December 1st by Zoom. And I will have the link for that and one other Zoom at the end of this presentation tonight. We have two clinics for you at the annual meeting, and I do hope you will register for that. The Zoom cost is $150. Attending in person is $350. And I know that that's a chunk of change, but you'll enjoy the meeting quite a bit. The first one that we'll have at the annual meeting is referee scenarios with Marty Johnson, again, teaming up with Betsy Reed. That's always a favorite one. That'll be on Friday, December 5th. And the other one at the meeting will be World Athletics Officiating with Mike Armstrong, joined by Lloyd Cornelius. And the date for that is Saturday, December 6th. Gratitude also is owed Ivar Zikströms for his well-known expertise in implement inspection. He's going to deal with the complexities of the Javelin, the most difficult implement to pass through or to look at through implement inspection. That is on Thursday, December 11th. Today's Zoom is the brainchild of George Adams and Kara Winger. George is an official's official. He's master level in throws and a four-time Olympic trials official. He serves as assistant coordinator for one of the largest meets in the U.S., the Texas Relays, which is in March. Kara is a highly accomplished athlete whose dedication and talent resulted in her being a four-time Olympian, world athletic silver medalist. That was at Oregon 2022. And she's the American record holder at 68 meters 11. That is 223 feet 5. She's also a certified official, and I'm informed by her certification chair that she's a very good one. And I found out about that at the Pac-12 championships in 2023, 24, excuse me, when we worked with each other in javelin and also at discus. So we look very much forward to what you two have lined up. We have also, for an officials panel, Paul Johnson, who is experienced in para to the point where he's an international technical official. He's from the Southwestern Association. We have Terry Tutt. Again, I want you to mute yourselves.
I lost my stuff.
We have Terry Tutt, who is representing clerks from the Ohio Association. We have Bob Jaderi in throws. He's from New England Association. Jake Ford, horizontals from the Southern Association. Omar De La Rosa, umpiring from Texas Association. Eric Zemper, starter and 1984-96 Olympic official. He's from Michigan. And Rich Shorenstein, not Shorenstein, Rich Shorenstein in verticals from the greatest state of Colorado. All right, you two, take it away. George, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. We're just sort of going to give if I could, let's see if I can share this. Let me get to my section here. This is just going to be sort of a rough outline, just sort of going through. Some of you may recognize this from last a year ago. Let me see if I can get that for everyone to see. Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, George,
Yes.
I would like to tell people that this is a clinic that has taken a lot of concentration and effort. There's a lot to making this clinic work, and kudos to you two for what you've done.
Thank you. Can y'all see the presentation here?
No.
Okay, let's see if I can. So hang on a second. Let's see. Let's share that. How is that?
We're getting close.
Getting close.
There you go. Bing, it's on.
Okay. Okay. So this is just sort of a rough outline. This forum is just sort of an opportunity for each of us on each side of the aisle, as far as officials and athletes, to better understand each other and to help overall to help the events go a little bit smoother. So um, maybe this is more about how the things that are left unsaid, things that you could wish you could tell somebody on either side of the aisle that would help the event to go smoother, even considering as far as rule changes or anything else that that you want to talk about or to get out, so that we can understand each other, and to make the events better for the athletes and better for the officials overall. Uh, so we can get to as we've gone through our introductions, we've gone through that and just some basic discussion points. Um, let's go ahead on the introductions. Kara, if you could please, let's make sure we get the athletes panel on there, because we want to make sure everybody knows who's here.
Absolutely. So I have the absolute pleasure of introducing some athletes. We did have some last minute cancellations, so I apologize for that. Thank you for having us, but we will have sprints, distance, and field events absolutely covered. So super excited to be here. And this event was actually born at the annual meeting years ago, and George wanted to resurface it. So tried again at the annual meeting last year, and this virtual edition feels like a really good turnout. So very happy to be a part of it. Starting off, first on my list, Tia Livingston is on the call. She is a UPenn 400 meters hurdles former standout, the 2018 ECAC champion, and a USA Track and Field Athletes Commission rep. So Tia Livingston is here representing sprints.
Hi.
Thanks, Tia, for being here. Second on my list is Katie Moon, who is a pole vaulter. If you didn't know, everyone on this call, she is an Olympic gold and silver medalist, as well as the first woman to win 3 straight outdoor world championship gold medals, most recently in Tokyo this fall. The absolutely fabulous Katie Moon, who I have seen take legitimate shots at 5 meters at Hayward Field itself. Thank you, Katie, for coming.
Thanks, Kara.
Third on my list, and I know on the call because I checked the participants list, is Kendra Chambers, formerly Kendra Coleman, an 800-meter primarily specialist. She's the Athletes Commission vice chair, and her personal best of 2 meters, 0.76 is phenomenal. She's in a new career with Athletes for Hope and doing great things for athletes across the board. So Kendra served this summer at USA Track and Field National Championships, and has a lot to say on distance. Kendra, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kara.
And my final athlete, unless anyone else shows up, so if Dominique Arnold, Rady Rash, or Marquise Dendy do pop into the participants, I will interrupt and introduce them as well. But the last athlete here is Rudy Winkler, hammer thrower extraordinaire. Rudy broke the American record for the second time this season in 2025. He first did that after Lance Steele had held that record for 25 years at Olympic trials in 2021. Rudy has made 5 World Championships teams in a row since 2017, and he is a 3-time Olympian, consistently making it into the finals of his very competitive event on the world stage. Rudy, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Lovely intro. Thank you.
Thanks. And I can fill in gaps if needed for athlete people, although I am retired severely. George.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kara. Okay, so through introductions and just some of the basic discussion points. So we'll really start with basically with Terry Tutt, who's from the official standpoint, she's involved with check-in and clerking procedures. Terry, what are some of the challenges that you face as far as checking in the athletes and all that? And we'll also, I would like to get a take on the para perspective, if we could talk to Paul and/or possibly Lisa Colvin, who was involved with clerking for the para section this past year in Eugene. Terry, what are some of the challenges that you face? And again, we want to get the athlete's perspective on this. Please feel free to chime in. There is no holdback. We want to get perspectives on both sides of the aisle.
Before I talk about, I've got a little bit of laryngitis, but before I talk about checking in, I just want to say that I wish all athletes knew 2 things. One, spikes. Those are driven by the venue. So when we go to Des Moines for USATF outdoor, they tell us what spikes we can use. And when we go to Eugene and Oregon, they tell us. It's not the clerks just deciding. So yes, it's always 1/4-inch pyramids, but sometimes we have difficulties where the 3/8 come in. High jumpers, javelin throwers. Sometimes you need to have a 3/8 pyramid. Sometimes they let you use the other one that looks more like a Christmas tree that everyone likes to jump in. So sometimes we take a lot of grief in clerking, and that has been decided ahead of time, and it's probably in the manual. And secondly, this new World Athletics shoe check has really added another facet to checking in. And sometimes meet management just does a post-event check. We like that as check-in clerks, but sometimes we're required to have you sign in that log as well. And ultimately, it's for your benefit. USATF's doing that for your benefit to make sure that you are legal to compete at the next level. So we're really there for you. World Athletics caused a lot of changes in clerking in the U.S. when they came in 22. And we are trying to adapt a lot of those things as we go toward the Olympics. So we are called call room judges. We're not called clerks. And Chris Cohen made the schedule. And ever since then, the schedule has been made either by USATF or the Oregon people. So I used to always make the call room schedule. And it's different because in World Athletics, you only get a small, like maybe 10-minute window to get into the tent and then go on down to call room 2. So that should be published. We hung it outside of call room 1. And really, I think all the clerks that work for me are helpful and friendly, and they're there to make it as easy as possible to come in and get ready and go on down to call room 2. So that's just an overview of clerking. So questions or an athlete response to anything I said, I'd appreciate it.
I have a question. So for the pole vault, for example.
Is this Miss Moon?
Yeah, sorry, this is
Katie. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So basically just a question on who decides how long we get on the field, because there are meets that we go to where we show up and we're allowed to just go right to the runway. That's best case scenario. There are some meets where they take us out 90 minutes before, which is also great because then we get to do everything out there. We don't have to warm up in the warm up area. wait 20 minutes to sit in the call room, then get taken out, and just it's a lot easier when it's all done out on the field. So I'm just wondering, how is that decided? Who is that decided by?
That is USATF meet management, and in the manual, it's usually 90 minutes for high jump and 45 minutes for throws, and the long jump, triple jump, and up to 120 minutes. 95 is what you get to warm up, 5 minutes to introduce. You know, you don't have to be out there that whole time. We have athletes that go later. It's really odd, and we'll give them a special escort down. But I hear you saying that you want the whole 90 minutes. So
Yeah, it's just for me personally, it takes about a half hour to get warmed up, and then we want the full hour on the runway. So it's just nice when I don't have to break up my warm up, do some of it in the warm up area, then wait a little bit, then kind of re-warm up, and then so
I got you. And sometimes you don't know that until you get there.
Exactly. So yeah,
exactly, because there used to be like a athlete's manual that would come out a couple weeks in advance on the USATF website, and all that would be in there. And that hasn't been as timely, so that sometimes we're finding it out when we get there as officials.
Okay. Is there a way that we could maybe advocate for some versus others? Because sometimes we get taken out like 60 minutes, basically right when the hour window opens up for us to be. And granted, I might be mixing up some of the World Athletics meets and USATF meets. I apologize if that's the case, but is there a way to kind of push for one versus the other for athletes?
I'll take note of that. Like I said, USATF meet management puts that call room to schedule together. I know there's supposed to be time for you to be in call room 1, be escorted down to call room 2, meet your head official there, go out, have 5 minutes to change your shoes, get your whole warm up time, and then 5 minutes for introduction. That's all supposed to be built in there.
Katie, this is
right.
Mike
For us,
Armstrong.
our warm up time is the hour on the runway.
Okay.
So it's nice having the extra time out there to like actually like jog, dynamic stretch, static.
Yeah.
And I know that other pole vaulters have felt, I haven't spoken to every single one. So I'm not speaking for everyone, but I do know.
So you're using your time out there on the runway, not doing your warm up jogging. You've had to do that before you go back.
No, I don't
Before you
want
go
any
down?
break in my warm up. So
Okay.
it would be nice to like go out 90 minutes early, have the
Right.
half hour to jog, stretch, dynamic stretch, get on the runway right when it opens up 60 minutes before, and then go from there. So
I got you.
Mr. Armstrong, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was going to recommend to Katie and the other athletes that have your athletes commission reps talk with men's and women's track and field, and Amy Begley and Ed Gorman, the national office, about what you prefer, so they can try to build that into next year's schedule. Let them know what works best for y'all and work through those channels, as those are the ones that put those schedules together.
sure. Got it. Thank you.
Miss Coleman, you had a question. Kendra?
Yeah, Katie, I'll connect with you. I'm the vice chair of AC, and then I also sit on the executive committee for high performance. So that's something that we can bring up. And yeah, Mike's right. The women's and men's track and field chairs in charge of the schedule. So that's something we can bring to them. But yeah, we'll make sure that gets to them ASAP. Until yeah, I can connect with you offline.
Okay. And it's not a crisis situation. It's just
I
something
know.
nice.
Hello, everyone. This is Wendy Trevelyan. I am here on the call, the Women's Track and Field Chair. Katie, thank you for that. Consider that note taken. I will absolutely work with meet management, and we'll follow up with the AC chair to make sure we get all of these requests in advance. So we will allow that input prior to our meet management setup. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for that.
And when that happens, the clerks will get you down there on time to get that full amount for you.
And I think this is the success of this forum, right? Is to hear all of the grief that we have on each side and understand who all is playing each role, right? Because that's like absolutely education is part of the forum for sure. I think what I'm absolutely hearing from Katie, and I agree with, Two is just the knowing beforehand. And Terry, that's not a decision that the officials are making, but it is an enforcement that is happening. So kind of, I think we all understand and have experienced in every job we've ever had that the communication piece is the most difficult one to like get through. And as athletes, we're updating whereabouts. We're making sure that we have our shoes in our bag. I have nightmares still about forgetting my knee brace and from like not putting it in my suitcase to get to a meet. Like there's just all of these things that everyone is trying to like check the boxes for themselves. And I wonder, like, my kind of first thought was, what is the extra communication? And I understand that as an official, like, this is requiring you to build something, build a resource for athletes that isn't necessarily provided. But is there, I know that the times are posted, but is there a QR code at the clerking tent? So when athletes are coming to ask about check-in times the day before, they can scan to go to the USATF manual for the competition. And that might be a request to make to USATF itself to have like a quick hit. Athletes are there anyway to warm up. They're there to check javelins in. They're there to do all of these other things in the days prior to the competition. So can they scan real fast and see what the rules are, what all the logistics are?
This year at the outdoor, we got the schedule that morning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's how we worked. So I know
I
what
wonder
you're
if
saying.
there's a young officials IT team that could be deployed for like in real time, because this is like there's like widget apps that you can get on your phone that you can actually like put on the table and have scanned. And I know like, yeah, so that's really good education too, that everyone's operating on last minute information.
So when we did World Athletics, Chris Cohen sent it out the night before to everyone, all athletes, you know, we all had it the night before, so they knew coming in. So that's a really good point.
And just my other feedback is it's awesome to just keep reiterating professionally. I always appreciate that like spike length is not the decision of the officials, it's the venue. Like we all get frustrated by it, but the maintaining composure and professionalism and delivering that message is always appreciated by me. I've been in tears because of it, but I know it's not your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, just one point I wanted to make sure that before we got away from this point that Paul, if you could chime in, what are the challenges and for any para athletes that are here in this discussion, if they would feel free to chime in, the challenges as far as checking in, the clerking procedures, all those for the para athletes, if you could lend some perspective to that.
Sure. So for the para athletes, we need that extra time in the call room to do additional checks. For the wheelchair, we're checking the frames, the wheel sizes, the helmet, all the requirements of the rules for a safe chair. And then for the amputees, we're doing things like if they're a double amputee, they have to be within their MASH, which is the maximum allowable standing height. So the problem we had at championships this year was, where was all that going to happen? And it just didn't have a great flow to it. But in the end, we ironed it out so it worked. So, and to do all those chairs, you need that extra space as well. You know, when you have 2 or 3 heats of wheelchairs, it takes quite a bit of space in the call room.
Did this in any way compromise the schedule, or was there enough of a buffer?
No,
Not
I
at
think
all.
our schedule was pretty good. So
Okay.
in the past decade, you know, we always have our racers or runners in the call room 20 minutes before, and then field athletes an hour before. So that's another problem, is getting field chairs, frames from the call room or weights and measures to the actual throwing site. So there's a lot of extra logistics that your average runner thrower doesn't have.
Okay.
So
We had 2 call room ones this year. Call room 1 for those that had the chairs, racing chairs, was down kind of on the ramp entrance there. Were the ones that were able to walk, they were up in the other call room 1, but they all ended up in call room 2 before they went out onto the track. So it did take some give and take and figure it out, and it went really well.
Perry? Perry,
Yes.
are there any logistical difficulties with chair athletes accessing call room 2 at Hayward?
No. Nope. They went up, and before they went out on the track, they took that left around and they just wheeled down to call room 2. Yep. I mean, the only problem, you just got to get it timed from call room 1 to call room 2. There's no physical problems getting them there. And the match was also done in their call room 1 down in that area.
Right.
We had some great people who taught us a lot about para.
Good. Okay, so let's just move it along here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so instructions and placement of athletes at the start. So, well, any challenges to that particular area? Anybody on the track side as far as getting everybody set? Mr. Zemper, anybody want to chime in? Mr. De La Rosa, anyone that understands this? Of course, Paul on the para side. What are the challenges that we face in terms of making sure that those athletes are at the correct positions to get their race and do the best that they can? Anyone?
I think this internationally has been under the purview of the starters' assistants.
Okay,
When
Mr.
the
Zemper.
call room people bring the athletes out, turn them over to these starters' assistants who are responsible for making sure everybody's in the right lane or in the right position on the starting line. We're here in the US, we're starting to adapt or adopt starters assistants now. They've been in the rule books for the US rule book for the last couple of years. And as soon as we completely adopt the World Athletics rule book in place of the USATF rule book, that'll be fully implemented at that point.
Eric, interject something here. For those people who are interested in applying for national meets as a starter's assistant, please note that this is a clerking position and that you must have a national or master level in clerking. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, internationally, that position is designated for people experienced in the call room and for experienced starters as well. When I've used starters assistants in meets where I've been officials coordinator, I've drawn primarily from the starters to do that because they're very familiar with what's supposed to go on at that starting line. So that position should be open, I would hope, to both clerks and starters.
I think that's true. That's the way I understand it, USATF. I don't know that starters apply for it very often because it used to be like the line clerk. But yeah, a starter has all the qualities to be out there putting them on the line as well.
Athlete's perspective, anybody that's had challenges as far as this section, been misinformed, anything that crops up? Do we have any stories to tell from that perspective from our athletes? Anyone care to chime in?
While you're waiting, I think Don Harris, our starter assistant, is actually on this Zoom, and he may want to chime in his experience this year with para for the first time, and if not, it's okay. But I'm pretty sure he's on the Zoom with.
Absolutely, Don. If you're here, if you want to chime in, or again, athletes, if you have any experience with this where you've had challenges, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, and I was just going to say from a assistant perspective, we work closely with Call Room 2. So we provide them with a schedule in which we like to have the athletes. We take them to the line. We'll all work in pairs, the two of us, and so we'll make sure that the athletes have enough time to get on the line in the proper lanes. And we try to do a good job at minimizing instructions because these are college and our pro athletes. And so they know what they need to do. And so we don't ever want to do anything to interfere with performances. So we typically, we'll try to make sure that they're at the line typically 5 to 6 minutes prior to the actual race. And that generally allows enough time for blocks, setting, and then with the distance races, the 800 and above, a little bit shorter time, but it still allows them time to do their stride outs and all those sorts of things. Often because of the level of the athletes that we're working with, we typically don't need to tell them where they need to line up for distance races, but we would inform them, hey, this is a double waterfall. If your hip and chest numbers 1 through 12, you'll be on the inside, and then the others will be on the outside. So we give them just the information that they need so that they can run the race without interfering with them mentally getting prepared to sort of run.
Okay.
But as you said, George, I would love to hear any perspectives from the sprinter. I think it was Kendra Coleman.
Yes, Miss Coleman, go right ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've run races with blocks and just middle distance races. I think with blocks, it's much easier for athletes and the starters to know where that line is. I have been to several meets run by USATF officials where, particularly with like the Journey to Gold ones, where there's like a TV time, and to make the TV time it's a little bit of a rush, which is understandable. And we still feel, prepared, but there have been times where I was confused with the line. So some tracks have different lines for the 800. Like some tracks coincide with the 400 mark and some tracks don't. So when an athlete gets to the line, and usually you guys are really good about gathering the athletes before, letting them know it's the green line or white line or what have you. But there have been times where, say, you're the last one out of the pin, or you just did your stride out and you didn't hear that conversation, and they're like, we got to go now, and TV's on and the gun is up and you're like, what line is it? I have been one of those athletes where I just guessed, and who knows if I was on the right line. So I think just making sure that someone is there to check all the athletes before the gun goes off to make sure they're at the right line. Obviously, we don't want to, create a space where it's like an athlete's cheating or they get disqualified just for not knowing that information. So that would just be my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other perspectives on this point? Anybody else want to share? Okay. Okay. On the field event side, in terms of
George,
yes, please go right ahead.
point out there is a chat that is occurring.
Yes,
So
Scott,
make sure
if you could monitor that, I would appreciate it, and just interject at any time.
I'll do that, but people are responding to comments that have been posted, and so make sure you check over and you'll easily be able to keep up that way too.
Okay. Okay. In terms of officials on the athletes, in terms of giving instructions, timing of that event, as far as when to give the instructions, any strong opinions about when that should be done, how it should be done. If we could get some people to chime in on that general point, any of our field event officials in terms of timing and what you should say, and is it too much? Is it too little? Let's get an athlete's perspective on both of those. If anybody wants to chime in about that.
Hi, Rudy Winkler here.
Yes, Rudy, go right ahead.
Hammer thrower. So have been to many national championships for field events. I think the instructions, I've personally never had issues with when the instructions are given or the detail of the instructions. Generally, it's detailed enough. I think one personal pet peeve of mine is the timing of the warm-ups when it comes to the last couple of throws where, officials say when that clock hits 0, we're going to go out to the field, but there's always going to be a line of people and they're going to have to cut it off at some point. I think having an earlier, like someone stand in to be like, this is going to be the last thrower in the flight or in the warm-up rounds, so that once this person goes, we can go out in the field and do the introductions and do all that. Because there's been over, I don't even know how many nationals at this point, at almost every single one of them, there's always 1 or 2 people who are trying to squeeze in their throws at the end who either get cut off or who think they have enough time to get a throw in and they don't. So I think planning ahead for athletes would be nice if someone were to just step in and say like, the clock hits 0, but we're going to stop at this person in line so that athletes have enough time to prepare and know that they'll be the last person. I know that can be difficult based on the timing of things, but that's the only real big one. And if anything else comes to mind, I'll let you know.
Okay, let's get some perspective. Horizontal throws, Mr. Jadari, Mr. Ford. How do you handle that as far as how would you prefer, or are you satisfied in general about how the approach is given when you actually give those? Or Mr. Schornstein, if y'all could chime in, any perspectives about this? Strong opinions?
Hi, George. This is Jake. I'll go.
Okay.
I love to give all the instructions in the call room. We usually have about 3 minutes there. So I don't try to utilize the 3 minutes to give them instructions. I try to do as Don says, I get out of their headspace. So I only give them just what they truly need to know. If we're at Hayward Field, we're definitely telling them to watch out for the javelin and the discus. We also tell them about the brick wall that is around the east runway by the shot put area, that they cannot go past that. So things that are definitely things that they need to be aware of and safety purposes,
Okay.
we hone in on those. We also tell them who the athlete control person is, and that's their point of contact for communications. If they don't have it from a lead perspective, they can always get the lead down at the pit. And the other portion of communications that we give them is for all foul jumps, if they would like to know where the actual image is. If they can go and look at it in time, fine. If they can't, get with the lead and let them know, and they'll try to get that image brought back up so that they can see where their foul was. So any communication other than that is just done in the call room. We allow the athletes to be true athletes once they hit the field.
Okay. Mr. Schornstein?
Yes, George, thanks. Rich Schornstein here. And I got to say, I echo what Jake said. We, from an official's perspective, we sure like giving our instructions in the call room. And that's because once the athletes are out on the field to play, they're concentrating on their warm-ups and their preps. So we do that in the call room. As with Jake, I try to limit the instructions to 3 or 4 minutes, just the essentials. Now, to address that topic that one athlete just made regarding the end of warm-ups, that's a concern to athletes. We understand that. As a practice, I will walk down the line on a runway for for pole vault or a high jump, and let athletes know there's 20 minutes left, there's 10 minutes left, there's 5 minutes left. And then I'll typically put an official at the end of the line with 2 or 3 minutes left, and that'll indicate the last athlete that's going to have a warm-up. Now, having said all that, I'd sure like to hear if the athletes have preferences, if they have other ideas.
I can answer, Rich, and I would love to take the opportunity to introduce Marquise Dendy, two-time Olympian, qualified for Rio, did not go, Tokyo Olympian, horizontal jumper extraordinaire, absolute entertainment factor on the Diamond League circuit, and indoor world champion 2016 in the long jump. So just a fabulous human, Marquise, and I wanted to give him the floor if he wants it. But I absolutely agree with getting instructions in the call room. It looks like Rudy does as well. And Marquise had given that a thumbs up in the chat. And I just wanted to echo, Jake, like your comment about getting out of the athlete's headspace. That's absolutely respected, preferred, appreciated, to kind of do the stuff beforehand and then let us do our thing on the field. And it very much moves toward, I think, the World Athletics rules. Like internationally, we do not hear from officials even really in the call room. Like it's just checking your stuff and then you go out to the field to compete. There's not a whole lot of communication verbally. So diminishing that is, we respect you just as much if we don't hear your voice as much.
George?
Okay, yes, go right ahead.
Bob Jadari.
Yeah, Mr.
Speaking on
Jadari, go right
throws.
ahead.
So what Jake said is exactly true. What Kara just reiterated. Short and sweet in the call room. You're professionals. Get out of your way. Let you do what you need to do. If there's any specific, that's where we try to address it. As far as shutting down the event, anybody who's worked an event with me knows that one of the things that I do is I will take and I will push that last throw to the absolute last possible second. National anthem comes up and takes away 2 minutes and 13 seconds of your warm-up time. I will do everything I can to give that back to the athlete. And as Rich just said, keeping the athletes informed. Minimal conversation on the field, but we've got 3 minutes left. TV's all over us. We've got to go. So it will shut down here. And that's something that is out of our control as officials. TV tells us that we need to go at this time. That is the time we go. I've also seen it where TV changes their mind with 2 minutes left, and I've kept the circles open. Yes, keep going. If you need another throw, step in and take it. We have time. But again, what TV says, TV rules. I talk constantly with the on-the-field TV person to say, okay, you want them on this line at this time. And I will make sure they're on the line at that time. And if at all possible, and I can speak for most of the other throw heads also, that they will take and they will keep the circles open, keep the runways open until TV tells us we have to stop. And that's when we shut it down and say, okay, introductions, and we begin right after that.
Okay, but as far from let's just try to get
some of that stuff is not controlled by us.
Right. But is there any way, I want to get an athlete's perspective of this, sort of, we can go down this road a little bit, because I think it's very important, because many of our athletes in the audience are aspiring or have definitely been at the elite level for many a time. And I want to address the athletes and to a lesser degree, maybe the officials too, but how much the TV, while it's giving exposure to the event, it can be also a hindrance in terms of the rhythm of the event. And I wanted to get the athlete's perspective on this. I know Bob has been through this personally when running his event, but I'd sure like to get the athlete's perspective. And what I'm saying is, okay, we've got to hold up. How does that affect your mentality? Are you typically prepared for that at this level? Or is that just something you have to roll with the punches? And this can go for both the field and the track and field.
I can definitely comment on this, Katie Moon, because, and this was not USATF, but at World Championships, they not only held us for introductions of races, they held us for entire races at the end of the competition. Yeah. The most important moment where like we're on our biggest sticks and they're holding us for 10 minutes and we're just standing there, nothing's happening. And obviously that's not you guys. We know that was TV time. And when I spoke to the official, probably not in my nicest voice of just why are we waiting? She's like, well, they just want to feature you. I'm like, the camera's not going to care if we don't clear bars, which is most likely what's going to happen if you hold us for 10 minutes at the end of a competition. We're getting cold. We're trying to be in a rhythm. And so obviously as athletes, we know that that's inevitable. And yes, of course we would love screen time, but at the same time, why are we always second-class citizens to the sprints? I get it. Trust me. But when you hold us for entire races, like that's crazy. But yeah, so to your question, we know that it's inevitable. We anticipate waiting. Is it ideal? No, but obviously, like, elite athletes know how to roll with the punches. But with that being said, we definitely appreciate less than more of that. And yeah, I think what Mr. Jadari said about just the call room, like, less is more for us at this point. We know what we're doing. The newbies that are coming in, they learn pretty quick. A lot of the rules are the same in college. So, you know, as long as you kind of give us the basics and let us go do our thing, we're all a little stressed. So less is better.
Okay, we had at least one question from Rick. As an official who works high school and small college meets, what are the level of instructions you give or prefer to be given? Also, Chris Jones comments, I work at high school meets and give lots of instructions before and after, especially early in the season. You'll have athletes who've never competed in track and field or in your event before. Make sure that any instructions you give are audible to all competitors to ensure fairness. Don't cross the line into coaching. Okay. All right. Okay. Any further things? Any perspectives that need to be lended here?
I have a question for Rudy.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Rudy in particular. Like to hear your opinion. What do you think about the requirement of having to have warm-up in competitive order?
That's how it's done on the world stage. As far as that at nationals, I don't mind that if it's the first couple of throws, but then allowing athletes to take more in whatever order they want. I think is important after that because at the national level, I think most of the people there aren't quite at the level where they can be ready to go in 2 throws. The other caveat to that, though, might be that this isn't something you guys control. The warm-up times for the throws, especially the hammer, typically are too long. 45 minutes is just too long. Everyone usually gets their warm-up out by the first call room, and then when they're brought down to the field for the warm-up rounds, most people just sit around for the first 20 minutes and wait. And then you'll start to see everyone kind of line up and get ready to go. So throwing in order a certain number of times enabled you guys to start the event faster. So say like everybody they just set a line, everyone gets 2 warm-ups in order, you get the option for 1 more in order, and then we just start. I think that would be a little bit better for time management. Again, you guys don't set those rules. That might be something we bring up to men's and women's track and field, but I personally like warming up in order like that if it does cut down on overall warm-up time.
So with the purpose of it cutting down on warm-up time, I think the stated purpose of it is to make sure everybody has the same number of warm-ups. But you make a point about having this in effect maybe for the first 2 throws and then just opening it up after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be a discussion that would have to be had amongst athletes, just because, like I said, at that level, some people are ready in 2 throws, some people might need 5. But if you were to set the limit at like World Championships, you get a definitive 2. Occasionally they'll give you an extra throw, but it's very, very rare. So you go in knowing that you only have 2 warm-up throws and you prepare for that. I think if athletes were more prepared to have a set number of throws guaranteed, they could be ready in that time versus just giving a vague amount of time beforehand. So some people get 10 throws and some people take 2, and then it's kind of disproportionate.
So Rudy, to jump on that, what you just said too, World Athletics specifically states 2 throws and start, whereas USATF suggests 2 throws, but that usually happens very, very quickly. And now we have 15 minutes before our scheduled start time. And that's where I will step out. Terry Eason does the same thing in the discus. We'll step right out of the area and say, okay, it's open, athletes. If you need another, take another. Just go to the end of the line. Don't cut in front of anybody. If you want one, take it. If you don't want one, don't take it. And we leave it open until the time runs out. So the difference between the two is the time limit that we're given. USATF, like I said, usually gives us a specific start time and a specific time that you have to warm up. So,
Right.
So Bob,
Well,
I'm sorry, Reed,
go
I
ahead.
didn't interrupt
No, go
you.
ahead. Go ahead.
Just make a comment as the hammer referee in Tokyo. We were given a 30-minute warm-up time. And so we knew basically that there wasn't time for everybody to get 3 throws in that 30-minute time period. And so that's why we told them, okay, we're gonna get 2 throws. That's it, because we're running out of time. There's not time to let everybody have a 3rd throw. And so even that was based upon the time allowed by meet management for the warm-up period. So
Okay. Just to chime in on the chat, Mr. Chavez, Mr. Draw indicates that younger athletes need more instructions early season, so this does not apply. Elite athletes don't need that. Call room instruction, not a line. Flight coordinators and starters assistants are the key, as he points out. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. This comes up occasionally. Athletes' preference for how we address them. Do strong opinions on that. Some of you may be indifferent. How do we approach this? What's the theme? What are the feelings about this approach in terms of how we should address them? Strong opinions. Chime in.
George, Bob Jadari again. Several years
Yes.
ago, this young lady, Patterson, I believe was the last name. She has since gotten married. She made it perfectly clear. She is a professional. Please call me by my last name.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And I've carried that ever since.
All right. Athletes?
I've been talking a lot, but I agree. I think it's professional and less room for ambiguity. Typically, first names are the same, last names are typically different. Obviously, there's going to be overlap with both, but less common for last names, I think.
Okay. Any other perspectives?
I don't
Anybody else?
have as big of a qualm either way. As long
Okay.
as it's either Katie or Moon or even Najat, I'll answer to all of them. So as long as you get it right, and that's yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just personally, I have experienced times where I did not know if an official called my name up or on deck. And so I try to be very attentive, but majority of the time I like my last name because I know at least like, that's a little bit more prominent one, but then it also sounds a little bit more professional. And like Rudy said, there are other people with probably the first name as you within your flight or wherever you are. So like it sometimes it can be a little bit confusing because you don't know who you might be referring to. There could be 2 Tias, 2 Julias, 2 people with the same name, first name, of course. It's not, I haven't seen too many times where the last names are similar, but unless maybe that person has a sibling or a cousin or someone. But and in those instances, I'm sure there's clarification on, who you're referring to. But definitely as, on a professional level and even elite level in general, the last name always sounds better.
Okay.
If I could
Anybody
just
else?
add my very
Yes,
strong opinion.
please
Yes.
go right ahead.
I do think that the professionalism of it is also just a properness thing, right? Because as a woman growing up, like maybe I don't want a man I don't know saying my first name, right? Like it's a little bit of that thing for me. And when I've dealt with high school athletes, kind of just same thing. Like I know that a kid isn't used to being referred to by their last name, and maybe there is like an age gap, like a high school to college. Now college athletes are absolutely like referred to by their last names, and that can be a broader discussion. But for me, it's just the like respect moment of like, I'm not your family, I'm not your teacher, I'm not your cousin, I'm not anything. I'm this neutral third party. Your last name is what I'm going to use. And I would say like, because I at indoor what is it called? RMAC championships last year, there were twins in the heptathlon, and I was doing the whatever it's called, Rich, it was my first time. coordinating the multis through the entire thing. And so you get to know them, right? And you have time for that in a field event as well, if you're an official, to look at the person, like your last name and your first name, if you're twin in the field, like you do learn their names in a short period of time to be able to make eye contact, make it a little bit of a human thing to say, Williams, you are up right now, because I know that you are the person.
Okay, just
And
to
I
get to some of
agree.
the, yeah, just to get to
Sorry.
some of the messages in the chat. A question from John, Miss and Mr. Any feelings with that? Marcus indicates that last names are great. Is it preferred for the official to ask the correct pronunciation if unsure? Should it be last or first names rather than gender? Just some things to talk about. Anybody
Yes,
care to chime in on
please
those?
ask how the last name is pronounced. With my maiden name as Najat, it was greatly appreciated when not only they asked me, but then they remembered it for the next competition. So greatly appreciated if you pronounce names correctly. Now it's not as big of an issue, but
Okay.
This is Dila. As a very inexperienced official in this list, on Katie's point, the pronunciation of the last names, I can't tell you how many athletes I've had tell me I've been doing this for 4, 8, however many years, and nobody's ever asked me how to pronounce my name. So I always make sure to do that and to do my best at pronouncing them. Do I always get it right? No. But I at least tell them by the third time I call your name, I'll have it. And we work on it together to get me to the point where I can pronounce their names. I think it's just a respect thing. I have a weird first name. I really don't care how people pronounce it, but for almost everybody else, it's an important thing to them how their names are pronounced.
Okay.
I'd like to chime in on that.
Go right ahead, Scott.
At the pre, I was going around asking jav throwers, male jav throwers, how to pronounce their last names, and I think as has been said, they appreciate that very much. Jakub Vedlech from his name is very much slaughtered by people, and he looked at me and I tried his name out, and he looked at me and I tried his name out, and I think that the athletes very much will forgive any kind of blunders that you make if you are attempting to show courtesy to them and take the time to make their name important to you.
Okay. Steve Kessler points out asking the correct pronunciation is a sign of respect, and that is appreciated. Also comments for some conferences. Alexis points out that presenters submit a form ahead of time with a pronunciation guide for their names. I figure for bigger and elite even, the announcers know pronunciation ahead of time. Okay, so comments there. All right.
And I
Anybody
also
else?
think it
Go
would
ahead.
be
Go.
nice
Yep.
for officials, especially when you're in the call room, to just clarify with the athletes how to pronounce those names. But and also in terms of how to address them and the prefixes, like Kara said, try to avoid the prefixes Mr., Mr., Mrs. Just the last name is best because a lot of athletes, they also could be non-binary. They may not identify a certain way. So that how they want to be identified is kind of what they'll clarify ahead of time, I'm sure. And people want that just basic respect as an athlete and to be shown that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
So,
very much.
George, Bob Jadari back again.
Yes, Mr. Jadari.
So working a couple
I'm
of
sorry. I'm sorry. I meant to say Jadari.
It's all right. That's good. Working a couple of international meets, specifically the World Championships back in Eugene. I think I said 5 words as athlete control person. Made eye contact with the athlete, made sure they were next. Slow, gentle arm movements to come stand next to me. All explained in the call room before we stepped out. When they were up, I stepped out of the way. I don't think I said the word up more than 5 total times. I simply moved my arm towards the circle and they stepped in. We'll get out of their way and let them do their job. Our communication was nonverbal and a lot of eye contact. It worked very, very well, went very, very quickly. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Moving right along. Let's see if I can get this over here. Hang on one second. Okay. Protests. Understanding the protest process. Sometimes this is, well, I'm not saying sometimes, very often this is a challenge from the official standpoint on making sure we get it clear so that we explain it. Does it need to be explained? Is it a type of process where it should only be broached when it actually happens, or do you consider it from the official standpoint being proactive? From the athlete's standpoint, understanding the process, what are some things that come up that are sticking points that are challenges for you as athletes and challenges for you as officials? Comments, bad stories, nightmares, anything.
Hi, sorry if I can hurry up and interject real quick. This is
Yes,
Marquise.
Mr. Dendy, go right ahead.
How you doing? So I don't really have much of like any nightmares or anything like that. I guess I would like to know what is the official, I guess, timer before it gets, I guess, raked or I guess moving on. I guess how much time do you have between like, I guess being announced that you have a foul or something that has gone wrong, and then you have time to kind of talk to your coach, and then what do you do from that point on? Like, I guess what's the time limit before someone can then start raking? Because I guess my question is, most athletes don't really know that, and they don't know how much time they actually have between getting out of the pit and then talking to their coach, or maybe they might be convinced, of,
Yep.
a whole bunch of things are like kind of happening all at once. Somebody might have a better angle. Maybe coach is just kind of like waiting for the film to kind of come up on his end. Whatever kind of happens, I guess if we were to kind of know that, then maybe we can plan that in our training, or even just certain 2-minute drills. Maybe we can kind of be able to kind of have that clarity coming in. That way we don't feel as though that we missed the jump. So I guess there's that question, and then that way I think that they could take away some of those haunting moments in which someone leaves the pit and then it's already raked, and then they don't have an opportunity, or maybe a camera overheats and they don't have any other option. So I guess what would be an answer to like something like that?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and again, many of you can chime in here, but as a first dibs, let's go to Mr. Ford on the horizontals. Do you you're a
Yeah.
horizontals official, experienced horizontals official? Can you address Marquise's questions?
Yeah, I'll try, Mr. Dendy. Typically, after you land, uh, until you exit the pit, the officials should not be even getting up to even go in. So once you leave the pit is when the actual pinner goes in and actually spots where your mark should be. Whether it's a foul or at the board, you should see the light indicator between that time frame as well, because the booth official is making that call, and the pinner has nothing to do with the foul portion of that one, unless you exited the pit improperly. Okay. The next thing is that once the EDM has made the measurements and everyone is good with it, the mark should be then covered up at that point. There's no set time frame as far as giving you whether it's 1 minute, 2 minutes. It's however long it takes us to get the actual measurement done at that point. Now, if you would like for us to hold a mark or have a question while we're marking, that is something that you can take up with the lead during the measurement portion of that, and we'll do all we can to accommodate the question and give you a chance to protest or do whatever you need to at that time.
Okay, yes, thank you. No, I guess like I guess the scenario in my head that I guess I'm thinking about that I do see just often, or even just in my career, it's been a lot of times where just an athlete does win and kind of goes through that entire sequence. And a lot of times, let's just say it's hard for them to get out and cross the track to kind of just talk to their coach or any type of, interaction to kind of get just whatever clarity. And then, most people don't really know how to protest or kind of go through those things. I guess I was just asking if that was. It doesn't seem like there is, and then that's fine. But I guess
Yeah.
I can kind of summarize, I guess, just to others how long that process would take and how quickly they need to make a decision based off of just an average. So that's fine for me to where I can communicate that otherwise.
Yeah,
But
because
yes, that's fine.
yeah, the other part that you brought up was not so much in control of the horizontal jumps as much as it is with the marshal lanes allowing you to cross the track to
Right.
go
Yeah. Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
your coach. So
Yeah.
there's more variables in play than just the horizontal jumps itself.
Right. No, yeah, yeah. And so I just was just trying to figure out, I guess, a way in which, because, protesting is, more or less one of the bigger things. And sometimes a lot of that conversation that has to happen with their coach, whether or not they even want to go and file or if they can, even protest and, pay whatever thing it has to go to, all that stuff, just a little quick conversation. But if that just needs to be voiced from the athlete to the official and then they can honor that, then that's enough for to where we can kind of talk about that or kind of bring that up more often, just in case someone kind of has that, situation.
Okay,
Now,
so
you
we'll
do
go.
have the 15 minutes after the competition is over with to file that protest.
Actually, Jake, it's 30 minutes.
30 minutes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
Now, this is Rich. Jake, perhaps you and Bob might address the instructions we give our officials frequently on horizontals and throws that we're going to measure every attempt.
Yes, we do.
If it's foul, we're still going to measure and have a dark mark. You want to address that for our athlete?
Yes, we definitely do that for all fouled attempts. It's kept on a separate sheet. Nobody sees it unless it's actually needed. If a protest is won, then we'll take it off of the dark sheet and put it onto the real sheet. But the marks are captured. So there's no loss of performances.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, Rudy and Ms. Coleman, and I'll get to the comments in the chat in just a moment. Go ahead, Rudy.
I was just gonna say, I think it's worth just to say a line or two during the instructions in the first call room, just saying, if you do want to protest, this is what we're expecting from you. I think a lot of athletes maybe who haven't competed at nationals, don't even know what protesting is if it is their first time. And I have seen people's marks get missed. Maybe it's not at nationals because it sounds like you do record all the marks regardless. But just in terms of when you're giving the rules, I think it would be really valuable to just mention, if you want to protest, do it in this fashion so we know, or something along those lines.
Okay, okay. Kendra?
Yeah, so I have two perspectives on the protests, particularly for middle distance and distance events. One is as an athlete, and then one is I actually served as an athlete advocate this past nationals. And that experience was great. It was eye-opening. I got to see, obviously, a lot of the protests that came our way, and we're able to assist the athlete and go, all the way to the jury of appeals on a few of them. So that process was really helpful in this perspective. But I will say one thing. So the women's 800 has historically been problematic, particularly at our nationals. I believe there hasn't been a year in, I don't know, maybe 5 years that someone has not fallen, and that a yellow flag has not gone up. To me, that's very problematic because you don't see that in the men's 800. For whatever reason, the women, I don't know what it is. This past experience as being on the as an athlete advocate was very eye-opening in both a positive way and a negative way. Here's the thing, we don't disqualify many people at our nationals, and I don't know who set that precedent or why that is. We just don't. And I think part of it comes from the fact that maybe we just, just for example, this past nationals, we had no podium. The athletes got their medal immediately and they were carted off. It's very hard, obviously, hard situation to take a medal from an athlete and tell them actually you didn't make a team. But I do think that there was severe negligence this past year in the women's 800. And I'm not being biased or anything. Again, I was an athlete advocate. I was helping everyone during this meet. But to me, it seemed that the competition rules for impeding a runner, which is Rule 163 in our rule book, clearly gave a definition of what it means to impede. Time and time again, our jury of appeals or even officials, there is a yellow flag that goes up, and then when the athlete comes and we review it, for whatever reason, no action is taken. Even if, and I heard from the mouth of all of the jury of appeals as an athlete advocate, as I was sitting with 3 of the 800-meter runners who fell, tripped, or were actually impeded by definition in our rule book, actually state that we did see something to an effect. I'm not quoting. We did see something, and maybe you should have a meeting with the women's 800 group. That's what the jury of appeals told us. And I am dumbfounded with my mouth on the ground, like, no, like you need to do your job and disqualify the person who's doing the impeding. And herein lies the problem with the women's 800 in general. No one is afraid to get DQ'd because it won't happen. We need to set a precedence of like, you either play and respect by the rules, or you're not allowed to compete, or you will be DQ'd. There's no consequences, basically, is what I'm saying. And running dirty is now something that happens at almost every meet in the women's 800. Someone falls. We actually lost our Olympic champion like the year after. She wasn't able to go and defend her title, a thing Mo. And time again, there's athletes that continue to fall. So like, what are we waiting for to actually DQ somebody from the women's 8 or just any distance event? Are we actually waiting for someone to get a concussion? Because that's also happened. I've been in races where I've have fallen with other women and all of us had to get concussion protocol. And once again, nobody was DQ'd. So what is it? Are the runners doing it wrong, or is our rule book wrong, or the officials not enforcing the rules? Like, something has to give here. And I'm speaking very passionately because obviously this is my event, but it also frustrates me because we're not able to send our best team. And great example was this year at World Championships. We had one person in the final. And who are we leaving at home? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if we're really trying to send our best to defend our Olympic medals and World Championship medals, why are we continuing the women on the biggest stage to fall and not be able to get an opportunity to run and say, oh, well, that's just how the cards go.
Okay. Kendra, thank you. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Can we get an official's stand or official's viewpoint from that? Anyone else has chimed in? We haven't heard from Mr. De La Rosa, who's a
George. I want to chime in on this one. Okay.
Okay, please,
This is
Mr. De La
Omar.
Rosa, if you would go ahead. Right. Thank you.
All right. My specific in most track meets is I am either an umpire or a head umpire. It is our responsibility to be watching out for whatever we may see. We are the ones that do raise the yellow flags that you referred to. We give as accurate a description of what we saw or what we think was wrong, but we do not do anything on the side of disqualification. It gets turned into the referee, and the referee, with whatever additional access they have, are able to look at the race. And sometimes we'll see things that, it's so fast right there in person that you may not see things. I do instruct my umpires to be looking at the entire race. I do instruct them to watch and see. Sometimes it's a chain reaction. One thing led to another, which led to another, which led this one to fall down. And we try to write up all of that so that the referee has that information. The referee may or may not, depending on the meet at the national championships, definitely they'll have a video review that, they have privy to looking at that, and they make that final decision. Ours is not to argue you should have DQ'd this person. I will stand on what I saw or what I thought I saw. but I have to accept whatever the referee decides, or in this case, if it goes beyond that, to a jury of appeals or jury, whatever committee it needs to go to, and whatever additional evidence they can look at that we didn't see right there down on the field. I assure you that the flags are going up. It is being turned in. Now, what happens after that, that is totally out of my control.
Okay. All right. I did want to get to Ms. Trevelyan. She did have her hand up, and then I will get to some of the chat discussions. Wendy, if you go right ahead, please.
Yes, thank you guys. And just really quick, and thank you, Kendra. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you made the comment. As the women's track and field chair and as a part and leader of the meet management team, when these flags and things like that happen, you're right. I'm not sure the name of the person that was speaking. When the official makes the call, it gets to the referee makes the final call, and it goes up the chain to the jury. That's something that we have to address from a meet management standpoint. We're looking at that and how that protocol and dialogue happens. I know there's a big question, concern, like I think you were alluding to, Kendra, about the incidental contact and the things of that nature that sometimes may or may not be overturned. I think there's an issue of the timing from the 30 minutes to the protest. Then you got 30 more minutes to the appeal. And by the time those things happen, the meet done, the events done, the awards presented. That's something that we as meet management have to address and work closely with the national office. So we will be addressing that, Kendra. And I know with AC, we'll have that dialogue to make sure that you all have that input. But we have to figure out that protocol to make sure that it is fair and consistent. And what you said is right. We end up not having a DQ or not having the person that should be in place to be there. But the rules and regulations that are in place and how the meet is structured and the time frames based on the rule book, those are the elements that have to be adhered to make sure we keep the flow of the meet moving. The other thing that I know I can have input on to be able to dialogue with from men's and women's track and field standpoint is who we have in those positions that are knowledgeable about the rules and regulations, who we have in the jury, who we have in those referee positions. And I work closely with the national office with Mike Armstrong, and now in that position for officials is Lynn Kersick. We will work close together and we will be addressing some of those exact same issues and concerns. So I say thank you, Kendra, for mentioning that. Thank you all as officials, because we know the work you do is not always easy. We know there are judgment calls. We know there's some things that might sometimes be missed, but we also need to make sure that we are diligent and on point. That's why we have the meeting for the meetings after the meetings, the officials meetings, the referees meetings, guide everybody. And I'm a very hands-on person as the women's track and field chair. I'm there and I'm watching. I'm moving around and I'm watching what's happening so we can better help navigate to see what is happening. But you're right. We have to address it and we have to do better, and we will do better, and we will come together as a team and start working on that. So thank you all for letting me share.
Okay. Dougie, I will get to you in just a moment. I did want to get to the chat. Bruce Sherman writes, at a recent USATF throws meet, we had to leave the measuring prism in place in case there was a question or protest regarding the mark until the thrower that is up physically enters the ring. Is that correct, or should or can the prism be moved when the next athlete is called to the ring or when the mark is officially announced? Anyone care to handle that?
I could like summarize kind of the chats that have occurred since then as well. Rudy and I are both chiming in that dark mark is not a word that athletes know. It's not a phrase that athletes know. So even saying dark mark to a group of athletes in the call room could be super helpful to say, hey, we will have all of the marks if they are being recorded. So the protest process can happen. And if you protest and that is a successful protest to get the mark on a throw or a jump that was called as a foul, we will have that mark. Like, don't worry about getting the mark because it's being repeated anyway. Like, we are not familiar with the phrase dark mark, so that education is huge for understanding and having like peace around the process. Secondly, on leaving the prism in place, I almost got hit with a javelin last year at Outdoor RMAX because like an athlete got on the runway, was throwing before the mark was gotten for the prior athlete. So yes, holding the prism. And I think from an official's perspective, the communication between flight coordinator and prism marker is key to like physically block the runway or the ring from the next athlete getting into it until the mark is gotten and the communication happens, whether it's a dark mark or a legitimate mark in the moment. So that physical blockade by the flight coordinator to the throwing area prior to the athlete getting on the runway is really the thing, because I agree completely with leaving the prism where it is until the next athlete's turn is happening.
I will get to Doug. Hold the mark until the next athlete actually steps into the circle or onto the rimway. Stephen Kessler writes, every contact and fall doesn't always equal a DQ case by case. Kara, as she mentioned, she did not know about the dark marks until becoming official. Athletes should ask if we are dark marking because it depends on teams or meet level. Mr. Quonset writes, if no dark mark, the athlete needs to file a protest before raking, I assume, so the mark is preserved. Mentioned for non-athletes that might be listening, etc. Okay, let's see if there are any other comments. We move the prism once the thrower exits the ring. Okay, all right. Doug had his hand up. I did want to get to Doug. Go right ahead, Mr. Weir.
Okay, George, thank you. On that 800 comment, I was the head umpire at that meet. Yes, we do raise yellow flags. Yes, we raise yellow flags for anything out of the ordinary, anything that's not considered normal progress, a normal race. So if someone trips, we raise the yellow flag. It doesn't have to be an infraction. We'll write it up, we'll hand it to the referee. Now, if there is an infraction, but video can't substantiate that, then it's not going to be upheld, even if we believe wholeheartedly that there's something gone on. If it's not being able to be substantiated by the video cameras, then it's not going to get upheld, unfortunately. And there's going to be a huge difference between what we had at Worlds in 22, where there were about 100 cameras, and what we have at our own championships. It's all down to money.
Okay. Any other comments? I knew if I put the word protest, it would elicit some very interesting responses. I'm very happy I put that on there. Okay, let's see what I got here. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Any other items that we as officials that we can use or athletes can let us know that would help improve the events? Anyone can chime in. Again, I don't want to forget the para perspective. If Paul, if you have anything you want to chime in about, especially the last two items in terms of protests and any other items that would be important to improve the process, improve the overall experience for the athletes. If anybody else wants to chime in, then we may get to more specific areas involving the rules. Anybody want to chime in?
So this is Paul, and so on the protests
Yes.
at the championships this year, there was no video recording of the para races because it wasn't in the contract. So in this case, we did have a disqualification for a lane violation, but I had no video to go back and look at. So that was problematic. I encouraged the athlete to protest it, and they didn't. And then 2 or 3 hours later, somebody showed me a video that substantiated that we DQ'd the wrong guy. So.
Okay. Interesting point. Interesting point.
Right.
Okay. Let's get back to let me make sure I want to go into the chats. We've got at least 3 new ones. Let's see. Mr. Mariani says, I had the opposite happen, or maybe this is through Kara. I pulled the mark in the jab when I saw the athletes step into the runway. They knew they were next, but there was no cone or official blocking. Mark was not recorded. Got to say, as an official, this is a big personal hit. We gave the athlete another attempt, but ouch. Process is so important. Alexis writes, what was the process before the event was recorded? I think he writes, okay. Any other comments in this area? Or in general, on the last bullet point, any other items that we can do as officials or athletes feel that sticking points in terms of track or on the field side that we can do? Go ahead, Mr. Zemper. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things for the sprinter types in the audience.
Okay.
From a start referee's perspective. By the way, George, I've got 3 Olympic Games. I also did 2012 in London.
Okay.
As well as, and I've been a start referee for 16 Diamond League meets and a number of national championships. I was start referee in 2017, the World Outdoor in London. And my impression has been over the years now that a lot of athletes are not really clear on what to expect as far as a protest of a false start call, or when they raise their hands to abort the start. In the latter case, if you raise your hand to abort the start, you better have a good reason for doing it, because either the starter or the start referee is supposed to come out and ask you why you disrupted the start.
Yep.
And if you don't have a legitimate reason for doing it, and it appears you've been messing around playing games, you're going to get tagged for it with a yellow card conduct warning. And if it happens again, you could be disqualified. So expect that if you do raise your hand, have a good reason for doing it. And don't raise your hand if you don't have a good reason. As far as calling a false protest on a false start, anytime you get called for a false start, if it was at all close and you honestly feel you didn't false start, then by all means, protest to the starter or the start referee. And this is not going to be the case, of course, at high school or NCAA meets. They don't have that capability, but at USATF national meets, world meets, Diamond League, you can protest the call. And as a start referee, I have access to all kinds of electronic information where I can either make an immediate decision or I can wait till after let you run the race and then look at things afterwards.
So just to be clear, Eric, the athlete can actually, in that situation, run under protest.
They can run their race under protest, and a decision will be made after the race is over, when we've got time to actually sit down, look at the video, look at the waveforms. If the machine was set off to call a false start because of a flinch, I can see that very clearly on the waveforms. That's very distinct from a situation where you start to move and then continue the movement into your full start. I can determine from the waveforms one from the other to help make the decision. We can look at video as well. On the other hand, though, if you blow out of the blocks and it's clearly you're out well ahead of the gun, you're not going to get anywhere trying to protest that situation.
Okay.
But if it's at all close and you really feel you didn't false start, then by all means, protest to the start referee, get that decision-making process underway. And the good start referee will just turn around, immediately let you run your race, and then take the time to go through things carefully after the race and make a final decision.
Okay, all right. As Zoomer writes in the chat, bottom line is we as officials need to be on the same page. I'm primarily a throws official, as it's amazing how many right fighters there are out there when I'm traveling. Forbid you to mention, let's see, very sad. This sometimes it pretty much says that it's wrong and you'll do it my way. So there's got to be some flexibility, as he notes or she notes. Okay. Any other perspectives on this area, or in general, any other items that we can use to help improve the experience for the athletes, or any suggestions by the athletes to make it a more enjoyable experience in terms of understanding it for officials? Anybody want to chime in? Go ahead. Okay. All right. Just go to the next. See where we are here. Let me click on my PowerPoint. Specific discussion points. What are good proactive officiating techniques for both the athletes and officials within the framework of the rules? Anything to understand? Anybody want to chime in on that, or give some perspective to that so that we can make the experience better for the athletes? Anybody want to chime in on that discussion point?
So I'll throw in 2 cents, George.
Please, please, Mr. Jadari.
Yep. Communication. Talk to us. You know, I look at my job as running the safest, best event I can for the athlete. It's not about me. It's not about me making calls. It's about the athlete giving their best performance at that time. Talk to me. What can I do to help you within the framework of the rules do the best you can? And I'm always open to listen. Forums like this are fantastic. I take notes. I'll bring things up, try to make it better for the athlete. So, and even at the day of the competition, if there's something to do to help you, we don't know if you don't tell us. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in here? Don't hesitate. Let me check the chat room here. Let's see if we got anybody.
Hey, George.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Yolanda. And I
Yes,
just wanted to
Yolanda, go right
say,
ahead.
as officials, I think sometimes we need to remember not to take it personal. I mean, it means everything to these athletes. They've been training their whole lives. They've been training to get to this certain point and get to this certain level. And they've been through this, that, and the other. And so sometimes when it doesn't quite come out their way, they may say things or say it in a very aggressive way. And I think sometimes we can't take it personal. We have to remember the situation that they're in and kind of take a breath, give a smile, lower our voice, not match their energy when it happens like that. And I think that will ease some of the tension and things, especially when it comes to protests or things that didn't happen quite their way.
That's right. I mean, I think from a personal standpoint, I think Yolanda's touched on something, and that is there are always those times when I'm here in my room and I'm reading my rule book and I'm thinking, why am I slogging through this? Well, you're slogging through it because the athletes have been slogging through their work. Okay. So that's the reason you want to read the rule book and go through the details and learn the ins and outs, learn the mechanics, so you can make their process as smooth as possible because they've slogged through it. So this is something that you need to keep in mind when you're rolling your eyes in the back of your head as officials and thinking, why am I reading this? You're reading this because you need to put the time in because they have put the time in. So
officials, the particularly younger ones, don't realize the value of
going to very important meets and meets outside their immediate area. In doing that, you observe what other officials do and you learn techniques and ideas that you haven't experienced. So not only do you read the rule book, not only do you attend the seminars, but you put into practice by practicing when you go to these other meets, might be in a different state, might be whatever, and a variety of meets, because you'll start to get what's behind the rules, not just a certain way of doing the rules.
Thank you, sir. Good point. Some discussion points from just to acknowledge some of the people from the chat room. Mr. John Turner from the great state of Iowa writes, "This has been an excellent forum. The nuance regarding rules and equally important conduct of the meet is well served." John, you make a very good point. I need to do something on implements next time we come back here. So Archie Emmert writes, "Thanks everyone. Great meeting and information." Kendra writes, Mr. Coleman writes, "Thank you for all you do. We appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to do it, be able to do our job." Ms. Livingston writes, "Agree with that statement. My favorite officials are the ones who are accommodating, maybe even soft-spoken, who can empathize and understand that we go through before, during, and after competition." Mr. Lovett says, regarding athletes in the cage, "I nearly got killed the first time I officiated. When that was done, the athlete started his, I guess, turned his spin for the hammer while I was still in the cage. I dived for the exit and escaped barely." Ms. Tutt writes, "If we didn't have athletes, we wouldn't need officials. We are there because of you. Thank you for a great forum." Officials in the field events, except for the flight coordinator and markers in the field, should be seated and remain so during the event. To remember, the event is not about them, about us. It's about them. So, okay. So, anything else on this discussion point? Anybody else want to chime in? Okay.
Yes, George.
Please do, Mr. Shorenstein.
If I may,
Yes.
a bit of a plug here, and it follows the discussion we just had.
Yes.
You know, the rule book is got the basics about how the event is conducted. But what it doesn't have is the techniques and some of our procedures. So the plug that I wish to make is for folks to make use of the best practices website and all of the nearly 200 documents there. A great library of good information that can help people refine and tune up their procedures. That said, if you find something in best practices that can be improved or you think it's wrong, please let the editor know so we can correct it, we can refine it, we can better it, and then get it out to everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Okay. Let's go. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Okay. Let me get this chat portion out of here just temporarily. Let's see what the next point is. I need to click on my PowerPoint again. Okay. So I had brought this up last year, but how do the athletes feel about adopting the World Athletics rules to minimize confusion about the national level meets? What does that entail? Does anyone on the official side want to chime in on that too? So again, how do the athletes feel about leading towards unification or understanding that there should be one set of rules? I mean, obviously, there's the obvious answer to that, but what does that entail? Has it been a challenge from the official standpoint? How do the athletes feel about that? Anybody else want to chime in on that point?
George?
Yes, yes.
If anybody has been following rules closely over the last couple of decades, as I have, among many others, particularly people on the rules committee, the field event rules up to this point are practically identical to World Athletics rules. There are very few, very minor differences. And the only noticeable differences come in some of the running event rules, and we're working hard to get those cleaned up, trying to check with all the stakeholders in that area. But the intent is to get US ATF rules completely in line as far as track rules with World Athletics. And at that point, it should be a no-brainer just to drop the US ATF rule book, go to the World Athletics, and then have separate exception areas for youth and for masters. But the basic rule book would be the World Athletics rule book, just like it is everywhere else in the world.
Okay.
US is the only place where we've got 4 different rule books that we work with.
Yes, exactly. Anybody else want to chime in on this particular point?
So George, this is Paul. With
Yes,
the para
please.
rules,
Yeah, go right ahead.
that is exactly what we're doing. We follow the World Para Athletic rules with exceptions for the youth and the masters. So there is no differentiating that this is a US rule. The only US rules really are for those juniors and for masters.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on this point?
And I would say, Kara here,
Yes.
the minimizing confusion is that the USA national meet from an elite perspective is actually the confusing one, right? Like we're all used to going to Europe, and like when we come home and go to nationals or any like collegiate meet or what have you, that's what's different. Like if you compete on the elite level and you're traveling the world, you're used to world athletics rules. So having the same thing at home would not be confusing. And I think depending on when the change happens, if collegiate rules like stay different or high school rules stay different or whatever the process is turning into, US athletes would then just view the rule change as the next level of competition, right? And it would just be consistent with world athletics. So yeah, I think it's great.
All right. All right. Let's see what I got here. I need to.
Picking up on what Eric said.
Yeah, go right ahead.
The one rule book, I've gone officiating in Canada. I've done their college, I've done their high school, and I've done their middle school. And as soon as World Athletics makes a rule change, it applies at every level immediately. And so there's no difference of growing up where you have different rule books as you grow up. All the rule books, the only difference is categorizing some people or whatever, and you go to a high school meet, it's just like a youth meet in the United States. So having consistency where you have one rule book from all levels is ultimately the direction we want to go, because that's what it is in the entire rest of the world.
Good point, Carol. Very good point. Anybody else? Any other discussion on this point? Okay, don't have anybody in chat. Let's see what we got on the next. Scott, how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing okay.
Okay.
I think people are giving some indication that the things are getting a little bit long.
Okay. Okay.
From comments about how, so I think maybe people have signed off. We
Okay.
were at about 2:30 and we're down now to 180 participants. Well, we're the
Okay.
hardcore ones, but
Okay, that's
we
fine.
we ought to think about closing up shop here in a bit.
Okay, so I think maybe we can just go through this a little bit. This is something I had shown last year, just for the benefit of those who did not have it. This, I think, I discussed this with Eric last year, but one of the rules or compliance points indicates that protests may be based on the failure of the started recall. The protest may be made only by, if I can just move my section down here, only by or on behalf of the athlete who should normally have completed the race with a bona fide effort. Okay, so that's just one point to go through. Anybody want to comment about that, Mr. Zemper? Okay, all right.
Is there any confusion about that?
No,
I mean,
is everybody on the same page about that?
The-
Athletes in terms of sprinters,
the
understand
athlete,
that?
the athlete should never assume that there's going to be a recall.
Right.
Just run your race and then file your protest afterwards.
Okay. All right. Any other comments here? Okay, we can just move it along. Okay, in terms of the verticals for the pole vault, we had discussed this as a point last year, but I wanted to bring this up again. After confirmation of the position of the uprights and the time for the trial is started, no further change in the position of the uprights is allowed. So I guess, Rich, if you could comment on this, or if Katie is still on with us, or anybody else on the vertical side for pole vault, what their feeling is about this. Is this a step back? Is this a step forward? Just comments, commentary on this particular point.
Katie, are you still with us? Okay, if she is, jump in at any time. This is Rich. We've adopted this because World Athletics adopted it, and they probably adopted it because of television and wanting to run things quickly, and because they've got elite athletes and smaller numbers of those folks. Well, it is our rule, so we're applying it. The only thing I'd say on this, George, is that we want to be careful, and I've had personal experience with this situation I'm going to describe, and that is an athlete toward the end of the competition has a consecutive jump.
Yes.
They've missed their first attempt. They're over across the track by the stands talking with the coach. We've got the standard, well, the pit is ready, the bar is up. I want to make sure my officials do not start the clock until I get the flight coordinator over there to confirm whether or not they're going to change the standard. Because once we start the clock, they cannot change it. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to wait on them and their coach to have a nice 2-minute conversation. We're going to walk over and ask them, any change? If not, we're going to start the clock.
Okay, Rich, let me I may sort of want to play devil's advocate on this point, because I've heard this comment by several pole vault coaches and all, but and trainers, decathlete coaches, but in the fact that there's no change, is there a problem in that the wind may come up and that there may be some idea of safety issue in terms of the vault? Because of this rule, there oftentimes if it's set and a sudden gust of wind comes up and they have to hold where they normally would have some leniency, that seems to be now gone. I mean, isn't there a concern for safety in terms of inflexibility with this current rule?
Well, that's a good question, George. It has been my experience that it's terribly rare for a gust of wind to come up that places the safety of the athlete in jeopardy.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's go to the chat box. Let's see if there are any comments to this particular. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I don't think these seem to be pretty straightforward. Okay, let's just go on to the next point here. Okay, let me just click on this. We'll be okay, horizontals. Address this if Mr. Dendy or Mr. Ford are still on the line. The hop shall be made so that the athlete lands first on the same foot as that from which the athlete is taken off. The step shall land on the other foot from which subsequently the jump is performed. It shall not be considered a failure if during the phase of any phase of the trial an athlete touches the ground with the sleeping leg. So has this been a point of contention, Jake, or in the past, is is this somewhat equivalent to jumping off the pit before the bar comes down on the high jump? I mean, is is it pretty much understood that the sleeping leg is okay, or what's the approach here?
I would say we still have some problems out there where people haven't read the rule and see that it's okay to touch the ground with the sleeping leg, because
Okay.
people have called it a foul
Yep.
still. And to this day, that has been removed from the rule book for over 20 plus years now. And I don't know why it's such a hard thing to just allow. And we all get on the same page, but
Right.
we still
Right.
do run into this from time to time.
Okay. Mr. Mariani writes, which official is calling the hop?
That should be the pit judge, the
Okay.
one that's doing the pinning.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Let me just click. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So let's go back. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. Let me just get rid of this chat box here. Okay. And then I'll reduce this. Okay, so again, this has come up in the throws. No spitting or application by any means of human body fluids on any implement is permitted. The purpose of the presence of perspiration, okay, is, if I can just move this out of the way, shall not be prohibited. So has this come up? Are throws officials in the crowd? Any issues with this? Any problems from the athlete standpoint?
Hey, this is Bill Galley.
Go ahead.
This year we had one athlete who had not participated in. So this was one of the national championships, but we had one athlete who was a Paralympian, but hasn't participated in a long time, and this rule was not in place. Okay, so I did have a problem with him, and I had to remind him that there is a new rule that in effect. Probably put her in right around COVID time, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe so. Paul, have you had any experience or problems with this in this particular area for para?
This is the Sandra Perkovic Elkasovich rule.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. And she, among others, have become very adept at disguising their spitting. They still continue to do it, and I don't see any yellow cards being brought to bear. I'm not sure what the purpose of this rule is if it's not going to be enforced.
Okay. All right.
I'll throw in 2 cents on the same thing Scott just said. Watch Sandra on all 6 of her throws at the last World Championships. She licked her fingers every single time and spit on her disc, one of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw
At the
multiple.
international level, this goes back to the 800. At the international level, it's not being called. She did it on international TV, 6 consecutive throws. There was no call made.
And she does it with impunity because she knows that nobody's calling it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I saw multiple discus throwers do it at not Prefontaine, but the championships before Worlds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't spit on it. They lick their fingers and then rub the discus.
All right. Good point. Scott, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and shut down. I may have another slide or so, but I think we're getting towards the end, and we've already had a very good discussion. Unless anybody else
I agree
has
with
any
the
points that
decision.
they go right ahead. Sorry.
I agree with your decision.
Okay.
I think-
Let me just go to the chat one last time.
And you've stopped your screen share?
I have not. I have not. Let's see if there's any other comments. This is a significant health concern for officials and volunteers. We should be adamant about enforcing it. Okay, agree with Scott. What is the point of having the rules if no one enforces it? Okay. All right. Yep, I can go ahead and stop sharing. Let me go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. So fantastic discussion. I probably could go on another couple of hours, but I'm just so grateful for enthusiasm here this evening. I really appreciate this, and just a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Yes, I am very appreciative of your efforts, you two. This has been very, very solid session. Uh, Many comments from people. Thank you all who have attended. It's an impressive thing considering that there is a World Series game on tonight. Here is the information about the Zooms that are coming up. Just take a screen share of this or a phone photo, capture it. There's my contact information. If you would like me to send you the video of this, I will be happy to do that once it's processed. And George, if you have anything that you feel that we can include in the form of slides or show or so, please send that along and I will include that. I'd like to thank everybody very much for tuning in. George, Kara, big thanks.
Okay, and I want to thank personal thanks to Bob, Terry, Omar, Jake, Paul, and Eric, and anyone else I did not. Thank you so much for your time. Your time is valuable, and this is a really great forum. I hope we can. We were up to about 250 people, so 230 people. So that's fantastic, and hopefully we can continue this, and hopefully we continue this in person at the next annual meeting that will be predominantly in person, which will be at the end of next year. So I just shout out to all of you on the panel and anybody else who chimed in. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.